Family excluded me from a reunion because they didn't approve of my fiancé, so I showed up unannounced, revealed my wedding plans, and now they're begging for an invitation. So, I found out my entire family had a reunion last weekend. Guess who wasn't invited? Me. I only found out because my cousin Emily posted a huge photo dump on Facebook. Everyone was there. My parents, my sister, my aunts, uncles, even my second cousins from out of state. But not me. Not a single text, call, nothing. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Like maybe they forgot? So I called my mom. She answered all cheerful. Hey, honey! Like nothing was wrong. I casually asked how her weekend was, and she said, Oh, just relaxing. Nothing special. Nothing special? I straight up asked her about the reunion, and she got quiet. Then she let out this weird sigh and said, Well, we just figured you'd be too busy. Too busy? I work remotely. My schedule is flexible. And they all know that. That's when it hit me, this wasn't an accident. They chose to exclude me. And I was about to find out why. I sat there gripping my phone, my heart pounding. Too busy? I repeated. What does that even mean? My mom hesitated, then said, We just assumed, with your lifestyle and everything, you wouldn't want to come. My lifestyle? What was that supposed to mean? I pressed her, and she backpedaled, saying, It's not a big deal, honey. It was just a small get-together. A small get-together? There were at least 50 people in those photos. They even invited Uncle Todd, who lives 6 states away and never shows up to anything. I was fuming. But instead of arguing, I just said, Got it, and hung up. Then I made a decision. I was going to that reunion. Sure, it was technically over, but I knew my family. They always did a Sunday brunch the day after a big gathering. Same restaurant, same time, every single year. If they weren't going to invite me, I'd invite myself. And since they didn't seem interested in including me in family events, I figured I'd return the favor, by surprising them with some very big news. The next morning, I got up early, put on a nice button-down, and headed to the restaurant where I knew they'd be. My fiancée, Anna, wanted to come, but I told her to wait. I needed to handle this first on my own. When I pulled into the parking lot, sure enough, there they were. A long table by the window, laughing, sipping coffee, passing plates around. Like a picture-perfect family. Without me. I took a deep breath, walked in, and headed straight for them. At first, no one noticed. I stood there for a second, then cleared my throat. The table went silent. All their heads turned toward me. My mom's eyes went wide. My dad put down his fork. My sister, Jessica, had the nerve to look surprised. Hey everyone, I said, forcing a smile. Sorry I'm late. Looks like I missed the invite. Silence. Then my Aunt Linda, the only one who ever seemed to like me, quickly scooted over and said, Oh, sweetheart, come sit. We didn't think you'd be in town. I pulled out a chair and sat down. Funny, I said, since I live 20 minutes away. More silence. People shifted in their seats. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear. That's when I decided to drop my first bombshell. I smiled, picked up a menu like nothing was wrong, and said, By the way, I'm engaged. Her seat, dabbing at an invisible spot on her napkin. My dad kept his eyes on his plate. Then Jessica scoffed. 3 years? She said, shaking her head. How did none of us know? I let out a sharp laugh. That's a great question, Jess. Maybe because you all stopped talking to me? That's when my dad finally spoke. Come on, don't be dramatic, he muttered. Dramatic? I repeated. Dad, you had a whole reunion, and no one even mentioned it to me. If Emily hadn't posted those pictures, I wouldn't have even known it happened. He sighed like I was exhausting him. We just thought you wouldn't want to come. You're always so busy with your own thing. There it was again. That excuse? I leaned forward. And what thing is that, exactly? My mom suddenly spoke up, a little too quickly. You know, your lifestyle. You and your work-from-home situation, your different priorities. I narrowed my eyes. Just say it, Mom. She pursed her lips but didn't say anything. That's when I realized. This wasn't just about me being busy, this was about Anna. See, Anna and I don't fit the perfect suburban couple mold that my family loves. She's independent, runs her own business, and this is the big one, she's not the same race as me. My parents have never outright said anything, but I always got the vibe they weren't thrilled about it. And now, sitting there, watching them squirm at the idea of me marrying her, it all clicked. I took a deep breath, my chest tightening. "You didn't invite me," I said slowly. "Because you don't approve of Anna, do you?" My mom's face went pale. My dad exhaled sharply through his nose. Jessica looked away. And that was all the answer I needed. The silence at the table was loud. No one would look at me. No one denied it. I felt this slow, creeping heat rise in my chest, not just anger, but hurt. I had known my parents were weird about Anna. I had felt it in the way they changed the subject when I brought her up, the way they never asked about her when we did talk. But I had convinced myself I was imagining it. That they wouldn't actually do something like this. And yet here we were. I set my menu down. "So that's it then," I said. "You didn't invite me because you don't approve of Anna." My mom forced out a nervous laugh, waving her hand like I was making a big deal out of nothing. "Oh, sweetheart, don't be so sensitive." "Sensitive?" "Mom," I said, my voice tight. "You literally pretended this reunion didn't happen when I called you. You lied to me." "It wasn't a lie," she insisted. "It was just easier." "Easier for who?" I wanted to ask. Jessica finally decided to chime in, crossing her arms. "Look, it's not like we hate her or anything," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's just, you've changed so much since you met her." I turned to her. "Changed how, exactly?" She shrugged. "You used to care more about family stuff. Now, all of a sudden, you're always off doing your own thing, not checking in, not showing up." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Jessica, are you serious? I wasn't showing up because you all stopped inviting me. You iced me out first." She just huffed, looking away. And then my dad, who had been quiet this whole time, finally said the words that made everything snap into focus. "It's just, we didn't think she'd fit in here." There it was. The truth. Aunt Linda gasped. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Mark!" she scolded, smacking my dad's arm. But he didn't take it back. He just stared down at his plate like he had said nothing wrong. I felt something in me harden. "Right," I said. "Well, that's good to know." I pushed back my chair and stood up. My mom reached out, like she could smooth this over. "Honey, don't be like that." But I wasn't finished. Because if they thought that was a bombshell, they were about to lose their minds. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of years of being the afterthought in this family. This wasn't just about Anna. This was about all the times I had been treated like an outsider, left out of plans, dismissed, made to feel like I somehow didn't belong. And now my own engagement wasn't even worth acknowledging? Fine. They wanted to pretend I wasn't part of the family? Let's see how they handled this. I folded my arms and looked directly at my parents. "Since we're being honest," I said, "let's just put everything on the table." My mom swallowed hard. "Sweetheart, let's not make a scene." I ignored her. "You say Anna wouldn't fit in," I continued. "But let's be real, you were never going to accept her, were you?" No answer. Just uncomfortable silence. I nodded. "Good to know. Because I wasn't just coming here to tell you I'm engaged." I let the moment hang before dropping the real bombshell. "Anna and I are getting married next month. And guess what? You're not invited." That got a reaction. My mom gasped like I had personally slapped her. My dad's head snapped up. Jessica actually choked on her mimosa. "You what?" my mom sputtered. "Next month?" "Yep," I said coolly. "Small ceremony. Just close friends and the people who actually support us." "Are you serious?" Jessica blurted. "You're not even giving Mom and Dad the option to come?" I shrugged. "Why would I? They made it pretty clear how they feel." My mom looked genuinely hurt, which almost got to me, but then I remembered how I had felt looking at those reunion photos. How easily they had left me out. "So that's it," she said, her voice shaking. "You're just cutting us off like that?" I raised an eyebrow. "Isn't that what you did first?" My dad rubbed his temples like this was all too exhausting for him. "Look," he said, voice low. "Maybe we could talk about this later. Figure something out." I shook my head. "No, Dad. We're done talking. I came here to say what I needed to say. I'm done chasing this family for scraps of acceptance." I took one last look around the table, at my mom, looking heartbroken, at my dad, looking irritated, at Jessica, still glaring at me like I was the villain. Then I smiled. "Enjoy your brunch." And with that, I turned and walked out. I stepped out of the restaurant, feeling the cool morning air hit my face. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the sheer release of it all. Years of quiet resentment, unspoken words, and swallowed disappointments had just poured out in one conversation. And I didn't regret a second of it. I pulled out my phone and texted Anna. "It's done." "You were right," she responded almost instantly. "How bad?" I smirked. "Depends on who you ask. But they know now. And they're not invited." I stood there for a moment, letting the weight of that sink in. Cutting off my family, even temporarily, wasn't something I had ever imagined doing. But standing in that restaurant, watching them fumble for excuses, I realized something. I had spent my whole life chasing their approval, and it was never going to come. Not in the way I wanted. I had built something better for myself. A life with Anna. A future where I wasn't constantly trying to fit into a mold that was never made for me. And for the first time, I felt free. I was about to get in my car when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, expecting maybe Aunt Linda. She was the only one who ever seemed to be on my side. But it wasn't her. It was Jessica. I crossed my arms. "Didn't expect you to follow me." She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Yeah, well, you kind of blew up brunch." I smirked. "Did I? Or did I just finally say what needed to be said?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned against the hood of my car, staring at the ground. After a moment, she muttered, "Look, I didn't think it was that bad." I blinked. "Jess, I literally found out about the reunion from Facebook." She winced. "Okay, yeah? That part was messed up." Silence stretched between us. Finally, she looked up at me, something unreadable in her expression. "You're really doing this?" she asked. "Getting married without them?" "Yep. And you're okay with that?" I took a deep breath. "I will be." Jessica chewed on her lip, then, unexpectedly, let out a short laugh. "You know," she said, shaking her head, "I used to think you were the selfish one. Always doing your own thing, not checking in, just different from the rest of us." I stayed quiet, waiting. "But maybe," she continued, "you were just the only one brave enough to stop pretending." That caught me off guard. "What's that supposed to mean?" She sighed again. "It means—" She hesitated, then shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe I've spent too much time trying to make them happy, too." That was the last thing I expected her to say. I frowned. "Are you saying—" She shook her head quickly. "I don't know what I'm saying. Just— I get it now. More than I used to." I watched her carefully. This wasn't an apology, not exactly. But it was something. A crack in the foundation. She glanced at her phone. "I should get back before Mom starts spiraling. But, congrats. On the wedding." I nodded. "Thanks." She hesitated for half a second. Then, just before turning to leave, she said, "For what it's worth, I'd come. If you wanted me there." And then she was gone. I stood there, watching my sister walk back into the restaurant. I had expected a confrontation. I had expected anger. But I hadn't expected that. Maybe, just maybe, not all of my family was a lost cause. I sat in my car for a while, replaying Jessica's words in my head. "I'd come. If you wanted me there." I hadn't expected that. Not from her. For years, Jessica had been the golden child, the one who never questioned anything, always fell in line. But now she seemed conflicted. Maybe even waking up to the same things I had. I wanted to believe she meant it. That she actually wanted to be part of my life. But I wasn't sure if she had the courage to go against our parents. And honestly, I wasn't going to beg her. I shook off the thought, started my car, and drove home. I had a wedding to plan, with or without them. When I got home, Anna was waiting for me on the couch, her expression unreadable. "Well?" she asked. I let out a long breath and sat beside her. "It went exactly how we thought. They didn't deny it. Didn't even try that hard to hide it." She nodded, like she already knew. "And?" I hesitated, then told her everything. My mom's weak excuses, my dad's cold dismissal, Jessica's unexpected words. Anna listened quietly, her fingers laced with mine. When I finished, she gave my hand a squeeze. "I'm sorry," she said softly. I shook my head. "Don't be. I feel lighter, actually." And I meant it. It hurt, but at least now I knew where I stood. She studied my face. And Jessica? I exhaled. I don't know. She said she'd come to the wedding if I wanted her there, but I don't know if she really meant it. Anna tilted her head. Do you want her there? That was the real question, wasn't it? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. A few days passed, and I tried to put everything behind me. Anna and I focused on finalizing wedding plans, reaching out to friends, and making sure the day would be perfect. Then, out of nowhere, I got a text from Jessica. Jessica, hey. Can we meet up? Just us? I stared at my phone for a while before responding. Me, why? Jessica, because I think we need to talk. Please? I wasn't sure what to expect, but something in me said I should give her a chance. So I agreed. The next evening, we met at a small coffee shop near my place. Jessica was already there when I arrived, stirring a drink nervously. She looked up at me, then took a deep breath. I want to be honest with you, she said. And I need you to be honest with me, too. I sat down, crossing my arms. Okay. Go ahead. She hesitated, then said, Are you really okay with cutting off Mom and Dad? Just like that? I sighed. Jess, they made their choice. I just finally stopped pretending it didn't hurt. She nodded slowly, like she was processing that. Then, she surprised me. I think you're right. I blinked. Come again? She looked down at her cup. I don't agree with them. About Anna, about how they treated you. I don't know why it took me this long to see it, but I do now. I studied her carefully. So what does that mean? Jessica looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw real uncertainty in her eyes. It means I don't know what to do, but I do know I don't want to lose my brother. That was the moment I realized, maybe I hadn't lost all of my family after all. I sat back in my chair studying Jessica. This was new territory for us. She had always been the one backing up our parents, the one who fit into their world without question. And now she was sitting across from me, admitting, out loud, that maybe I had been right all along. I took a sip of my coffee, giving myself a second to think. So, what do you want from me, Jess? She hesitated, then said, I want to come to your wedding. Not because I feel like I should, but because I want to. And I want to start fixing things with you. Her voice was steady, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. She wasn't sure if I'd shut her out the way our parents had shut me out. I sighed. Look, I appreciate you saying that. But I need to know, are you doing this because you actually see what's wrong? Or because you just don't want to be caught in the middle? Jessica flinched at that, but she didn't look away. At first, maybe I was just trying to keep the peace. But now, she shook her head. I see how unfair this has been to you. And to Anna. And I don't want to pretend everything's okay when it's not. I studied her, trying to gauge if this was real. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. I exhaled, nodding. All right. If you really mean that, then yeah. I want you at my wedding. Jessica let out a breath, like she had been holding it in. Then she smiled, a little uncertain but genuine. Thanks, bro. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a real sister again. The next few weeks flew by. Anna and I were deep in wedding prep, finalizing the guest list, and making sure everything was set. Jessica kept her word. She stayed in touch, checked in on the plans, and even offered to help. It was weird at first. After so much distance, I wasn't used to her actually being there. But she was trying, and I could see it. Then, 3 days before the wedding, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. Hello? A hesitant voice came through. Hey, it's Mom. I froze. I hadn't spoken to her since the brunch. She cleared her throat. I heard from Jessica that the wedding is this weekend. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She sighed. I think we should talk. I clenched my jaw. About what? About everything, she said quietly. I don't want this to be how things end between us. I didn't know how to respond. After everything, now she wanted to talk? I had a choice to make. I let the silence stretch between us, gripping my phone a little tighter. Finally I asked, Mom, are you calling because you actually want to fix things? Or just because you don't want to look bad with Jessica going to the wedding? She inhaled sharply, like the question stung. That's not fair, she murmured. Isn't it? I shot back. Because when I needed my family, you didn't care. Now suddenly you do? She was quiet for a moment. Then, in a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from her, she said, I don't know how to fix this. I closed my eyes. A part of me, a big part, wanted to shut her out completely. To tell her it was too late. But another part of me, the part that had spent years hoping my parents would finally accept me for who I was, hesitated. I don't know if you can fix this, I admitted. But I do know that an apology would have meant a lot before Jessica told you she was coming. I'm sorry, she said quickly. For all of it. For how we handled things. For hurting you. I didn't realize how much we pushed you away until I saw what it was costing us. I exhaled slowly. So, why are you calling? She hesitated. Then, softly. Because I want to be there. If you'll have me. My heart pounded. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. But could I really trust it? I had a choice to make. I sat there, gripping my phone, my mind racing. For years I had wanted this, some kind of acknowledgement, some proof that my parents actually cared. And now, here it was. But was it real? Or was it just guilt because Jessica had taken a stand before they did? Mom, I said slowly. I need to know, do you actually accept Anna and me? Or are you just afraid of losing face? Her breath hitched. I don't know if I've done a good job showing it, she admitted. But I do love you. And if Anna makes you happy, then that's what matters. I should have told you that sooner. I rubbed my temple, feeling the weight of everything. Dad feels the same way, she added quickly. He won't say it, he's stubborn, but I know he regrets how this happened. I sighed. You both had plenty of chances to make this right. I know, she whispered. But I'm asking now. Can we come? Can we try? I sat there, my emotions tangled. Part of me wanted to say no, to shut the door the way they had shut it on me. But another part, the part that still hoped, wondered if maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something different. I took a deep breath. Okay, I said finally. You can come. But this isn't a reset button. If you show up, it's because you truly want to be in my life, and in Anna's. No half measures. No conditions. If you can't do that, don't come. Silence. Then, after a long pause, my mom said, We'll be there. I wasn't sure if I believed her yet. But I guess I was about to find out. The wedding day arrived, and honestly, it was perfect. Anna looked stunning, our friends were amazing, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. No tension, no second guessing, just happiness. And then, right before the ceremony started, I saw them. My parents. Standing near the back, looking unsure, out of place. Jessica was with them, giving me a small, encouraging nod. I locked eyes with my mom. For a second, either of us moved. Then, slowly, she gave me a small, hesitant smile. And in that moment I knew, she was trying. It wasn't a perfect fix. It didn't erase the hurt. But it was a start. I took a deep breath, gave her a nod in return, and turned back to Anna, my family. The one I had chosen. The one that had chosen me, too. And as I stood there, ready to start this new chapter, I realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking for anyone's approval. I was just happy.